Marcus Chen stood at the back of the Riverside High Gymnasium, watching his former classmates mill around the reunion tables draped in burgundy and gold. 15 years had passed since he'd walked these halls, but his hands still trembled as he reached into his messenger bag and pulled out a manila folder thick with documents. Sarah Mitchell, now Sarah Brennan, according to her name tag, was holding court near the refreshment table, her laugh carrying across the room exactly as it had in 2009. She hadn't seen him yet, none of them had. He'd driven 6 hours to get here, spent 3 months preparing, and in approximately 20 minutes when Principal Davison took the microphone for the scheduled memory lane presentation, Marcus was going to destroy the lie that had defined half his life. His phone buzzed, a text from his therapist, "You don't have to do this." But he did, because somewhere in this room was the truth, and Marcus had finally found the evidence to prove it. Spring 2009. Marcus had been 17 and invisible, the kind of invisible that came from being good at school but unremarkable everywhere else. Not bullied exactly, just unseen. He'd accepted it as his natural state until the day Sarah Mitchell smiled at him in AP chemistry. She was everything Riverside High worshipped: debate team captain, homecoming court, destined for an Ivy League school. When she'd asked him to tutor her, he'd said yes so fast he'd knocked over his beaker. 3 weeks of study sessions in the library, she'd laughed at his jokes, touched his arm when explaining something clicked, he'd let himself believe it meant something. The Friday before prom, she'd asked him to meet her at her locker after school. He'd arrived with his heart hammering, having rehearsed a way to ask her to the dance a dozen times in his head. He never got the chance. Sarah's locker was in the senior hallway near the gym entrance where everyone congregated after final bell. When Marcus arrived, he found a crowd already gathering: Sarah, her boyfriend Tyler Brennan, and half the varsity football team. "There he is," Sarah had called out, her voice bright and carrying. "Marcus, thank God you're here. I wanted to give you this in person." She'd handed him an envelope. He'd opened it while everyone watched. Inside was a prom invitation, handmade, elaborate, with his name written in careful calligraphy. For one blazing second, his entire world had reoriented around possibility. Then Sarah had started laughing. "Oh my God, you should see your face," she'd gasped, pulling out her phone. "You actually thought, Marcus, this is a joke. Tyler dared me. We wanted to see if you'd really think someone like me would go to prom with someone like you." The phones had come out instantly, video recording from every angle as Marcus stood there, frozen, holding the fake invitation. Tyler had slung his arm around Sarah's shoulders, grinning. "Nothing personal, Chen," he'd said. "Just wanted to give the invisible kid a moment people would remember him by." The video went viral before Marcus made it home. By Monday, it had been shared across every social media platform, picked up by local news as a prom prank gone wrong, and turned Marcus into a cautionary tale. The comments were vicious. "He really thought she'd go with him, Elmao, and the delusion is real, and this is why you stay in your lane." But worse than the humiliation was what came after. The guidance counselor called him in, concerned about the incident. The meeting should have been private, but somehow details leaked. By that afternoon, rumors were spreading that Marcus had been obsessed with Sarah, that he'd been showing up at her house uninvited, that she'd had to involve the school administration because his attention had made her uncomfortable. None of it was true, but Sarah never denied it. Neither did Tyler. And when you're 17 and invisible, your truth doesn't matter against the word of the golden couple. Marcus's college acceptance to MIT, early admission, full academic scholarship, was quietly rescinded 2 weeks later. The official reason was vague: concerns about student conduct brought to our attention. His appeals went nowhere. He'd finished high school taking online classes from home, too anxious to face the hallways. His parents, immigrants who'd sacrificed everything for his education, watched their brilliant son crumble. His mother cried quietly in the kitchen when she thought he couldn't hear. His father stopped looking him in the eye. The shame didn't fade after graduation. It metastasized. Marcus went to community college instead of MIT, struggled with depression and social anxiety, spent years in therapy unpacking the damage. He'd rebuilt himself slowly, painfully, into someone functional, but the Marcus who'd believed in possibility never fully returned. Marcus had never planned to come back to Riverside. He'd built a decent life in Seattle, software engineer, small apartment, a few close friends who knew the edited version of his past. He'd made peace with being ordinary, with playing it safe, with never trusting too easily. Then 6 months ago, his mother's cancer diagnosis brought him home. While cleaning out her garage, preparing the house for her to move in with his sister, Marcus found a box of his high school belongings. Inside, beneath yearbooks and old homework, was his mother's laptop from 2009. He'd almost thrown it away, but something made him boot it up. The laptop had been the family computer back then, shared between Marcus and his parents. And there, in the browser history from April 2009, was something that stopped Marcus's breath: his mother's email account, still logged in, containing a forwarded message from the school. The email was from Principal Davison to several teachers and board members. The subject line: Mitchell Incident Confidential. Marcus read it 3 times before his hands stopped shaking. The email revealed that Sarah Mitchell's father, a major donor to the school's athletics program, had personally called Principal Davison the day after the prom video went viral. The Mitchells were concerned about negative attention affecting Sarah's college prospects. They'd requested the school redirect focus away from Sarah's role in the incident. The email outlined a strategy: characterize Marcus as the primary actor, suggest his behavior toward Sarah had been inappropriate, create enough ambiguity that colleges reviewing the viral video would question his conduct rather than hers. There was more. Attached documents showed that someone from the school had contacted MIT's admissions office directly, providing a confidential character assessment that painted Marcus as potentially unstable. They destroyed his future deliberately, strategically, not as collateral damage but as a calculated sacrifice to protect a donor's daughter. The revelation had hit Marcus like a physical blow. All those years he'd believed he deserved what happened, that he'd been stupid to hope, presumptuous to dream, and it had been a lie. A coordinated lie to protect people who'd never faced a single consequence. His therapist had urged caution. What do you want from this, Marcus, really? He'd thought about it for weeks. Revenge would be easy: leak the emails, destroy Sarah's reputation the way she'd destroyed his, but that wasn't what made his chest ache when he looked at his mother's laptop. What Marcus wanted was simpler and more complicated. He wanted the truth acknowledged. He wanted the people who'd stood by and watched his humiliation to know what had really happened. He wanted Sarah Mitchell to understand the weight of what she'd done. He wanted closure, not revenge, but he wanted it publicly, the way his humiliation had been public. And he wanted to finally be seen. The decision to attend the reunion came slowly. Marcus bought the ticket 3 times before actually completing the purchase. He drafted and deleted 20 different emails to Principal Davison, now retired but scheduled to attend as an honored guest. He practiced what he'd say until the words lost meaning. 2 days before the reunion, Marcus nearly didn't go. He was packing in his hotel room when a panic attack hit, sudden and vicious. The walls closed in, his vision blurred. He was 17 again, standing in the hallway while everyone laughed, phones raised like weapons. His therapist talked him down over the phone. "You're not that kid anymore, Marcus. You survived, you rebuilt yourself. Whatever happens tonight, you get to walk away." But what if walking away was the wrong choice again? What if silence was just another kind of surrender? The gymnasium felt like stepping into a nightmare wearing business casual. Marcus had arrived deliberately late, after most people had settled in with drinks and nostalgia. He recognized faces immediately, some barely changed, others thoroughly remodeled by time and expense. Tyler Brennan was there, thicker around the middle, talking football stats with a cluster of former teammates. He'd taken over his father's car dealership, according to the brief online stalking Marcus had done, married to Sarah for 13 years now, 2 kids. Sarah herself was harder to read. She looked polished and poised, her burgundy dress perfectly tailored, her smile bright as she worked the room. She'd become a pharmaceutical sales rep, Marcus had learned. Successful, well-liked. Her social media was a highlight reel of family vacations and charity fundraisers. She looked happy. That was the part that made Marcus's stomach turn. She looked like someone who'd never spent a single night awake wondering if they'd destroyed another person's life. Marcus grabbed a drink he wouldn't consume and positioned himself where he could watch without being noticed. Old habits. Marcus Chen, holy shit. He turned to find Danny Ortiz, former mathlete teammate, approaching with genuine surprise. Danny had been one of the few people who'd tried to stay in touch after the incident, though Marcus had pushed everyone away. Danny, hey. Man, I can't believe you came. I figured, well, you know, Danny's expression turned sheepish. That whole thing with Sarah was such bullshit. I'm glad you're doing okay now. The casual dismissal, that whole thing, made Marcus's jaw tighten. But Danny meant well. Most people did. That was part of the problem. What had nearly destroyed Marcus had been, for everyone else, just a high school drama they'd moved past. Yeah, I'm good, Marcus said. Actually, I'm here because I wanted to share something during the memory lane presentation, set the record straight on a few things. Danny's eyebrows rose. Oh man, wow, does Sarah know? Not yet. Marcus, Danny lowered his voice. Look, I get it, but these people have families now, kids. Tyler's dealership sponsors half the town's little league teams. Sarah does charity work at the children's hospital. Maybe just let it go. There it was, the same gentle pressure Marcus had felt 15 years ago. Don't make waves, don't create conflict, stay invisible. I spent 15 years letting it go, Marcus said quietly. Tonight's not about revenge, Danny, it's about truth. Before Danny could respond, Principal Davison's voice crackled over the microphone, welcoming everyone and announcing the memory lane presentation would begin shortly. Marcus's phone buzzed again. His sister, Mom's asking about you, call when you can. His mother didn't know he was here, didn't know what he'd found or what he planned to do. She'd spent years trying to help him heal, to move forward. Would this feel like progress to her or like reopening a wound? Marcus watched Sarah laugh at something Tyler said, her hand resting comfortably on his arm. They looked like winners, like people for whom high school had been exactly what it was supposed to be, a launching pad to better things. His hands trembled again as he pulled out the manila folder. What if he was wrong? What if nobody cared? What if the truth changed nothing and he walked out of here having humiliated himself all over again? Principal Davison called for attention. The lights dimmed slightly. The projection screen flickered to life with a yearbook photo montage. This was it. Marcus had paid the AV coordinator $200 to let him add a presentation to the queue. 5 minutes, maximum, that's all he'd have. He stood, folder in hand, and started walking toward the front of the room. Tyler spotted him first. Marcus watched recognition flash across his face, followed by confusion, then something that might have been concern. Tyler leaned over and whispered to Sarah. Sarah's head turned. Her eyes met Marcus's across the gymnasium. For a moment her perfect smile faltered. Sorry to interrupt, Marcus said as he reached the microphone. His voice cracked slightly. He hadn't spoken to a crowd in 15 years, but he pushed through. Principal Davison, thank you for letting me share a few memories tonight. Davison, gray-haired and grandfatherly now, looked confused but gestured for Marcus to continue. The room had gone quiet. Marcus saw Danny near the back, looking nervous, saw other faces he recognized from hallways and classrooms, all watching with curiosity tinged with discomfort. My name is Marcus Chen, he said. Class of 2009, some of you might remember me, some of you might remember a video that went viral our senior year. The temperature in the room shifted. People glanced at their phones, at each other, at Sarah. Tyler had gone very still. I'm not here for revenge, Marcus continued. I'm here because I recently discovered something that I think deserves to be shared with the people who watched my life fall apart and assumed they knew the whole story. He pulled out the first document, a printed copy of Principal Davison's email, blown up to be readable on the projection screen. The AV coordinator, as paid, switched from the yearbook montage to Marcus's presentation. The email appeared on screen. Marcus watched people lean forward reading. This email, Marcus said, was sent by our principal to school administrators in April 2009, 3 days after the prom video incident. It outlines a strategy to protect Sarah Mitchell's reputation by redirecting blame onto me. It specifically mentions coordinating with MIT's admissions office to sabotage my college acceptance. The silence was absolute now. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. Sarah Mitchell asked me to tutor her. We studied together for 3 weeks. She was kind to me during those sessions, or I thought she was. When she invited me to her locker that Friday, I didn't know Tyler had dared her to humiliate me as a joke. I didn't know phones would be recording. I was 17 years old and I made the mistake of believing someone could like me. His voice was steady now, stronger. 15 years of therapy and pain and rebuilding had led to this moment, and he wasn't going to waste it. What happened next? You all saw the video, the mockery, the viral spread. What you didn't see was the coordinated campaign to reframe that humiliation as my fault, the rumors that I'd been obsessed with Sarah, the suggestion that my attention had been inappropriate. None of it was true, but it worked. He pulled out the next document, the MIT rescission letter, and beneath it, a Freedom of Information request he'd filed that revealed the confidential assessment the school had sent. I lost my full scholarship to MIT. I lost my confidence, my future, my belief that hard work and intelligence mattered. I spent years in therapy trying to understand what I'd done wrong. And the answer, it turns out, is this: I'd been collateral damage in a rich family's reputation management. Marcus finally looked directly at Sarah. She was pale, her drink forgotten in her hand. Tyler had his arm around her shoulders, but protectively now, defensively. Sarah's father donated over $200,000 to Riverside High's athletics program between 2007 and 2010, Marcus said. The emails show Principal Davison was concerned about losing that funding if Sarah faced consequences for the prom incident, so I faced them instead. Now wait just a minute, Principal Davison started to stand, but Marcus cut him off. I have copies of everything. Emails, donation records, the assessment sent to MIT, witness statements I've collected from former students who remember what really happened. I filed a lawsuit this morning against the school district for defamation and educational sabotage. My lawyer suggested I not say anything publicly until after discovery, but I wanted you all to hear it from me first. The room erupted, voices overlapping, people pulling out phones, the AV coordinator looking panicked. Principal Davison was shouting something about lawyers. Tyler had stood up, his face red. But Marcus kept his eyes on Sarah. She was crying, silently, tears streaming down her carefully made-up face, her expression crumbling in a way that made her look 17 again. Not the golden girl, not the homecoming queen, but just a scared kid who'd made a terrible choice and never faced it. I don't hate you, Sarah, Marcus said into the microphone, and the room quieted again, everyone straining to hear. I did for a long time, but mostly I just need you to understand what that choice cost me, and I need everyone here to understand that when we watched someone get humiliated and did nothing, when we laughed, when we shared the video, when we whispered the rumors, we weren't innocent bystanders, we were participants. He stepped back from the microphone, his hands had stopped shaking. The truth is on the screen, do with it what you will. Marcus didn't wait for the fallout. He walked out of the gymnasium and into the parking lot where the June night air hit his lungs like a blessing. His hands were shaking again, but differently now, adrenaline, not fear. He made it to his rental car before Sarah found him. Marcus, please wait. He turned, she'd followed him outside, mascara streaking, her perfect reunion outfit rumpled. Tyler was visible in the doorway behind her, watching but not approaching. I'm sorry, she said, the words tumbling out. God, I'm so sorry, I was 17 and stupid and I didn't know they'd do all that. The MIT thing, the rumors, I swear I didn't know. But you never asked, Marcus said quietly. The video went viral, I disappeared from school and you never once asked what happened to me after, you just moved on. Sarah's face crumpled. I was afraid. My dad handled everything and told me not to talk about it. He said it would blow over if I stayed quiet, and it did blow over for me. I never thought about what that meant for you. I lost 15 years, Marcus said, 15 years of believing I deserved what happened, that I'd been presumptuous, that I'd somehow brought it on myself. I know, Sarah wiped at her eyes. I know, and nothing I say will fix that, but I need you to know I think about that day all the time. I've tried to be a better person, to do good things, to teach my kids to be kind, but it doesn't erase what I did to you. Marcus studied her, this woman who'd once represented everything he couldn't have, now standing in a parking lot crying over choices she'd made half a lifetime ago. Are you going to sue me too? She asked. No, Marcus said, and saw her shoulders sag with relief. The lawsuit is against the school district and Principal Davison. You were complicit, Sarah, but you were also 17. And part of me wonders if we were both victims of a system that valued donations over students. That's generous. It's not generosity, it's just truth. Marcus opened his car door. I didn't come here to destroy your life. I came here because I needed people to know what really happened. I needed to not be invisible anymore. You were never invisible, Sarah said softly. I saw you, that's why Tyler dared me in the first place. He knew I thought you were smart and kind and he was jealous. So he turned it into a joke and I went along with it because I was a coward. Marcus didn't know what to do with that information. Part of him wanted to rage at her. Jealousy wasn't an excuse, cowardice wasn't a defense. But another part, the part that had survived and rebuilt and spent years in therapy learning to process complex emotions, recognized that people were rarely simple villains or heroes. I hope you really have taught your kids to be kind, he said finally. I hope they never make someone feel the way you made me feel, and I hope you understand that my forgiveness isn't something you're entitled to just because you apologized. I understand, Sarah stepped back. For what it's worth, I'm glad you came back, I'm glad you told the truth, and I'm sorry I didn't have the courage to do it myself. Marcus got in his car and drove to the hotel where his mother was staying. She'd insisted on coming to town for treatment at the Regional Cancer Center despite his protests. When he arrived, she was sitting up in bed watching TV, looking frailer than he wanted to acknowledge. How was the reunion? She asked. Marcus sat down on the edge of her bed and for the first time in 15 years told her everything. Not the sanitized version he'd given her when he was 17, but the full truth, the humiliation, the emails he'd found, the lawsuit, the confrontation tonight. His mother listened without interrupting. When he finished, she took his hand. I found those emails years ago, she said quietly. On my laptop. I wanted to do something to fight back, but you were so fragile. I was afraid it would break you completely if we tried and failed. Marcus stared at her. You knew. I knew what they did to you was wrong. I knew it wasn't your fault. She squeezed his hand. But I also knew you needed time to heal before you could face this. I'm glad you found the strength. I'm proud of you. They sat together in silence and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Not closure, exactly. The lawsuit would take years, the trauma wouldn't vanish, Sarah's apology didn't undo the damage. But for the first time since he was 17, Marcus felt like he was standing on solid ground. The next morning, Marcus's phone exploded with messages. Former classmates reaching out, some apologetic, some defensive, some just curious. A local news outlet requesting an interview, his lawyer calling about next steps. And one message from Danny Ortiz, I should have stood up for you back then, I'm sorry I didn't, if you need a witness for the lawsuit I'm in. Marcus didn't respond to most of them. Instead, he sat in his hotel room and wrote an email to his therapist. I did the thing, I told the truth, I don't know if it will change anything but it changed me, I'm not invisible anymore, I'm not sure what comes next but I think I'm finally ready to find out. 3 months later, the school district settled the lawsuit for an undisclosed amount. Principal Davison released a public apology. Sarah Mitchell posted a statement on social media taking full responsibility for her actions and donating to anti-bullying organizations. Marcus used the settlement money to fund a scholarship program for students who'd faced discrimination or harassment. He named it after his mother, who'd lost her battle with cancer 2 weeks before the settlement was finalized. He never returned to Riverside again, but he also stopped running from it. And when people asked him about the reunion, about confronting his past, about facing the people who'd hurt him, Marcus told them the truth. Revenge would have been easy, healing was harder, but only one of them let him sleep at night. He'd chosen healing, and for the first time in 15 years, Marcus Chen felt like a person worth choosing.